Welcome to the Fellowship Podcast, a place where we get to know the people who make up the Baptist Bible Fellowship. In each episode, we sit down with pastors, missionaries, and ministry leaders from across our fellowship to hear their stories, their ministry journey, and a few lessons they've learned along the way. Our goal is simple: to connect leaders, share stories, and strengthen the mission. And now, here's your host, Randy Harp. Let's join the conversation.
Hey, welcome to our next episode of the Fellowship Podcast. My name is Randy Harp. I'm privileged to serve as the host and just share conversations that I have with my friends all across the country. So excited to introduce you to one of my newer friends, but I think we're developing a good relationship together. Chad Zueck pastors in Illinois. Chad, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, grateful to be here, Randy. Grateful to just be a part of the fellowship and to join this new mission of the podcast.
Yeah, great. Talk about where you are. I know let everybody know where you're at. Taylorville, Illinois. What's there? Tell me about your church.
What? I mean, you're saying that people don't know where Taylorville, Illinois is?
Well,
So, Taylorville,
I've been there.
Illinois.
I've been around the corn.
You have, and that's what we have around us is corn and beans. So we're right in the middle of Illinois. We're actually the closest, I would say, main city that people would know is Springfield. And so the community itself is 10,500 to 11,000 people. Just I serve and just have the joy of serving at Calvary Baptist here in town. Church has been a part of fellowship for a very long time, and actually, our church predates the fellowship by a couple years.
Hmm.
We hit our 80-year mark next year. We're planning on a big celebration for that, and just celebrate what the Lord's done in the past, but also just keep dreaming for the future.
Hey, Chad, take a minute, just kind of share a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up? Talk about your childhood just a little bit.
Yeah, so actually, ironically enough, most of my formative years were in the same city that I'm pastoring. I haven't lived here consecutively from, teenage years to now. It's actually quite different than that. But grew up here, graduated in high school here, went into the Navy, spent 4 years in the Navy, 3 years. After the Navy, went into college at Southern Illinois, Carbondale. And before the Lord called us into ministry, I thought I was supposed to work on airplanes forever. So that's what I did in the Navy. I worked on F-18s. And then I thought I was going to pursue, for a career, pursue that as my line of work, just to work on airplanes and whatever facet. So after SIU Carbondale, got my degree, my airframe and power plants license, started working in the corporate aviation wing of things. And the Lord called us into a ministry position in 2004. But then in 2005, we actually stepped into a ministry role. So this year we celebrated 20 years of vocational ministry.
Talk a little, not many pastors probably listen to this have ever even touched an F-18 before.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that like working on F-18s?
It's amazing. It's something I have people ask me all the time. Hey, do you miss the military? And I said, there's a lot of it I don't miss, but what I do miss is I miss early mornings on the flight line, the smell of expended jet fuel, and you're out there, that you're putting hands on and you're working on a piece of machinery that is incredibly complicated, that it's going to be launched up and it's going to fly at 30 to 50,000 feet and it's going to go supersonic and it's going to drop ordnance, and it's going to do all these things, and it's going to land again, and I get to do it all over again.
Hmm.
So I loved it. It was a joy, and I worked on flight decks of aircraft carriers. So when I was in the Navy, I served in that squadron, and we were detached to two different aircraft carriers. So
Hmm.
I did two deployments on those. So working on the flight deck, the most amount of exhilaration and adrenaline I think I've ever felt when you're right next to an F-18 at the catapult, full afterburner, your teeth are chattering, you can't keep them together. It's quite exhilarating, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah. So let me ask this, because a lot of guys, well, and for me too, out of curiosity, watching
Yeah.
Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick, how realistic is that?
So a lot of it is very realistic. As a matter of fact, here's an interesting fun fact about Top Gun. I grew up and wanted to be an airborne ranger. So I had like the legitimate Army Ranger handbook, was studying it as a young boy coming into my teen years. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to learn some of the crafts to be an airborne ranger. It wasn't until I saw Top Gun, and that was the shift. And then all of a
Mm.
sudden, it wasn't the Army anymore. Now it's airplanes and aircraft carriers. A lot of it is factual, actually,
Mm.
and the footage, all of the flight deck things, that is about as real as it gets.
Yeah, I heard that. You're so I guess you're an example of it. That after the movie came out, the initial one, there was almost an influx of people signing up for that.
Yes, I'm a sucker. Basically, that's what you're saying, Randy. I'm a sucker.
Well, there you go. Hey, talk about so you grew up in Taylorville.
Yeah.
When did you get saved? Was it as a child, teenage years? When was that?
Yeah, great question. No, as a matter of fact, I wasn't raised in church at all. I had a lot of church experiences growing up. My parents divorced when I was 4, and my dad rather had uh, full rights of us, and then my mom got visitation rights. And when I would go with my mom for those every couple weeks or every couple weekends uh, in a month, that she would take us and we would drop us off at different churches. So I had a lot of church experiences, no Baptist churches,
Hmm.
ironically. And so that's all I had for in my formative years. I got saved at the age of 21 when I was in the Navy, when a couple friends of ours invited us to go to church, and we went into actually a Methodist church that he stood up, did an altar call, preached God's word, and the Lord radically saved me on that day. And I was getting ready to go. I was a new dad and was getting ready to go on my last deployment. And I just owe so much to the faithfulness. I have no idea what that preacher's name is, but I owe so much to the faithfulness of that preacher and really the Holy Spirit, obviously, that truly saved me. But he was faithful to the word. He preached the word. The day that I got saved, again, altar call, I went forward just as we hear a lot. Go forward, didn't even know what was happening, but I knew I needed to repent,
Hmm.
gave my life to Christ. And immediately after that, I felt the love and support of the local church, a couple individuals by the name of Neil and Sally Adams. Again, I have no connection with them. They're older. They're probably in glory now. And there was another couple that was a super down to earth couple. I cannot remember their name, but hopefully I get to rejoice in heaven with them too. But they really just spent some time over those first couple months.
Hmm.
But I would say this, my most formative time of discipleship right after I got saved was with a Promise Keepers men's group. And that has profoundly impacted my walk, which is
Hmm.
also the reason why not only do I pastor at Calvary, but I'm also a part of a regional men's ministry based out of Springfield called RPM for Men. And so I do speaking at men's events, and we coach churches on how to have men's
Hmm.
ministries, and we do seminars, we do all kinds of things. But so all my formative years, again, those individuals and that faithful group of men going through the 7 promises of a promise keeper. The Holy Spirit was all over me in those early months and early weeks, and then yeah, just totally set the trajectory of my life.
Yeah, that's great. I went to Promise Keepers in Dallas,
Mm.
Texas, in incredible events. So you were in the military when you got saved. Were you married while you're in the military, or when did you meet your wife?
Yeah. So Marla and I have been married. We both got married at 19. I just turned 19. And so she's not quite a year older than me. But yeah, we got married right after high school, my high school.
Yeah,
So
high
we were
school
high school
sweethearts.
sweethearts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're high school sweethearts. And she had spent a year at Eastern Illinois University. And then we got married after my boot camp and my schooling, right before we went off to my duty station. So, yep.
Yeah. So
Been
what was her salvation story similar? Was it after or was
She got married as a child. So again, she wasn't raised in church either, but she had a family member who had a burden for her soul and for her sister's souls, and used to drive the church bus around on Saturday and bribe them with candy. Hey, we'll come by tomorrow and pick you up and take you to church. Well, she ended up going to church, and she went in, had a great experience, through those formative years, and she gave her life to Christ as a child, really.
yeah. How do you think those years when you were in the military, you and your wife both are when it's a military, it's a family. When you were in how did that prepare you for life as a pastor? Any
Um,
crossover lessons learned?
I would, yeah, there are a few. That's a really good question. I've never had somebody ask me that question. So I would say, not in order of importance, but the first thing, the value of working as a team. not as an individual. I don't believe my perspective of ministry. It isn't that the pastor or the ministry leader comes in to save the day. It's very much that pastor, ministry leader is developing a team in accordance with Ephesians 4, right?
Mm,
Equipping the saints for works of
yeah.
service that God created for them to do in advance. So, all of that. So the value of working on a team, which military is all about a team. Everything about it is at my level was working on a team.
Right.
So there's that side of it, and then also to be able to, uh, not a term that I used in the Navy, but it's more of an Army and Marine term, like the value of that your wife is as a battle buddy, right? Struggling
Mm,
together. So we went through a lot of hard times, and out of the 4 years that I was in, I spent about 2 years of that on the water, not to mention the land detachments. So spent a lot of time away. And I'm not going to say that those were the best years. They were actually very difficult years,
mm,
but it taught us the value of fighting together. And in ministry, a husband and wife team, they have to
yeah.
be a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Very. Yeah. That's
I'm not
good.
saying your wife needs to do everything you do, but you need to have the home front and the office front tied up. From my perspective, a husband and wife, and I would definitely say that that did happen.
Yeah. I love even the phrase you use that your wife is a battle buddy with you.
Yeah,
Because I do think, being a pastor or ministry, it's a band of brothers, but you need your battle buddy that's your wife to be
yeah.
there with you every step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, of all the places that we've had the opportunity to serve and all the things that God's done and the disciples that my wife and I have made in the past, they still live where they lived before, and she has been with me the whole time. So she indeed is my battle buddy. And I would say the third thing is the value of service.
Mm,
And it was really magnified. My family line, we've had people who faithfully served in the military generationally back to World War I.
mm,
I actually spoke at a veterans event on Veterans Day here, and I went back, and I think we have 5 generations going back in service to God and country in a military sense, different branches and all that. But I would say the value of service. I went into the military with a high level of patriotism and
mm,
and and wanting to serve. Well, of course, then when you actually take part in the kingdom of God and realize that God's invited us to serve alongside him, well, that's much more compelling than
right.
serving in a military sense or for any sort of patriotism. So I would say the value of service, and that's only been magnified in my time in ministry because, serving is whether you're leading or you have a leadership position, we're always serving.
So after you got out of the military, that's when you went to seminary and trained for ministry. We talk or no?
No, no, no. I, that's when I went and got a bachelor's degree to work on
Right, to work on
airplanes.
commercial planes.
Right. And then did that for a few years. In 2005, when we received the invitation uh, and took that as God's call for us to go to West Melbourne, Florida, to go serve at Bethany
Mhm.
Ministries there. I'd served there for a few years as the kids pastor. And the thing that we know, if you've been in ministry for more than 6 months, is if you show any sort of propensity of being good at ministry, you just get more of it. That's
Yeah.
what. Oh, you did that. That's great. Here's a little more. So that's what happened there, and God faithfully guarded us and gave me opportunities. So I'd gone there a couple of years, and then went to seminary.
Mm,
Actually, did online through Liberty University. Never stepped foot in Lynchburg, but
mm.
I completed the program, and they gave me the
Yeah.
diploma. So
It's the beauty of it. Beauty
we
of
moved
online
forward.
education.
Right.
That's what I did. I did my master's online through
Yeah.
Liberty as well. So,
Yeah.
so where else have you served? You were there in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Did you serve anywhere else before you went back to Taylorville?
Yeah. Yeah. So we served, I served on a ministry team down in West Melbourne for 5 years. And then I served as the lead pastor at Dublin Bible Church, right in the middle of Georgia. And just got there. It was a small church. God did a work, grew us exponentially. And then Lord called us from there after 12 years. So
Okay.
Dublin Bible Church for 12 years. And down in Melbourne for 5, and we've been here for just shy of 4.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So you've been in
Yeah,
at Calvary for 4 years. I
4 years.
was so it was interesting, my connection with the church when I was there to help. I met with the pulpit committee before they hired you. So it was they were excited whenever they started the interview process with you. So talk about you've been there 4 years.
Yeah.
What's it been like going back to serve in your hometown, so to speak?
It's been great in many ways. Some things that I did expect, other things that I did not expect. One of the things that I did expect was to really rub shoulders where everybody would know who I am because my last name and growing up here and all of those kinds of things. My dad still lives here. My sister still lives here. But that's been different because I would give God the glory for this. I'm actually more known here, not because of growing up here. I'm more known here because of the faithfulness of the light of Christ shining through the pastor,
Mm,
through the church that I have the opportunity of pastoring. So through Calvary, that's as far as recognition, uh, more so through that than my own family, which has been good. There's always the family dynamics coming back and expectations, and everybody has expectations. Oh, they're moving back, so we get to do this. And, so there's been some challenges of unmet expectations. But I would say, is coming back to the church, it was good. I knew the history. Oftentimes, pastors really don't know the history of
mm,
the church that they're getting ready to step into, and they can ask questions. Hey, what's going on? And people I've found anyway, they kind of tiptoe around some of the answers. They don't want to dishonor anyone, and so they're not really going to necessarily give all of their opinion. They're going to give you kind of the high points that they think are necessary. Well, I've known the history.
mm.
Our history goes back almost 25 years to Calvary. So we came to Calvary in 2000, at the tail end of 2000, and we were here until 2005.
Mm.
So I knew the history. I was connected. I had a shared history. I had served as a deacon here back then.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was an amazing thing, but I knew that that the Calvary that we left in 2005 is not the Calvary we were coming to.
Mm.
And the Lord really let me know that up front, so I didn't have those kinds of expectations. It was just like, well, we just get to pick up where we left off
Yeah.
because I knew the history.
Yeah.
And God faithfully showed me that, and God's been doing amazing things ever since.
Yeah. So you got there right at the tail end of COVID.
Yeah.
Talk about what it's like taking a church and starting at a church right after all the pandemic stuff happened, and what was it like when you first got there? I know you were meeting in person again. Was it still spread
Yeah.
out?
Um, at that point, no. Now, when I did come back to candidate and I came back to speak a couple times, even before I began the process uh, to come in here to pastor, we had a section that was masked. They had the option of masks if they wanted to. That was kind of partitioned off from everyone else. But honestly, when we came back here, most people were kind of mentally fatigued
Mm.
and over COVID. So we're like, let's move forward. So
Yeah.
I really gained the benefit of probably a little bit of time frame where people were just like, okay, we felt it, we did the things we were supposed to. Now let's move forward.
Yeah.
And the Lord's timing was beautiful in that because we were in Georgia, and Georgia moved forward. They didn't have all of the COVID protocols that they did in Illinois or other parts of the country.
Yeah.
Georgia kind of was rogue in some ways, did their own thing. And so the church I participated in, we did honor that, as much as we deem necessary. But it was it was a little different than it was here.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I really didn't know what that was going to be like coming back here. But I found that people they were ready to move forward, and
Yeah.
we were
Good.
too.
So 4 years in now, what's something going on in the church right now that you're most excited about? Something you're passionate about right now that you're doing?
So I would say what God's doing, and I'm very excited about this, is God is bringing us young people, young 20s and 30s who are curious about the faith. I can connect with them because I wasn't raised in church. So I didn't come into, at the age of 5 to know what all the stories were, and Noah and the ark and Jesus and Moses and Abraham and Esther and Ruth. I mean, I didn't know any of those things until I
Right.
was an adult. So I can really connect with them in a lot of ways, and they come in with questions, and they're sticking around, and they're getting baptized, which is incredible. They're giving their lives to Christ. Of course, I am excited about the opportunity of discipling them, right?
Mm.
Because there is clearly a difference between evangelism and discipleship. You need evangelism before discipleship, but so I'm excited about the future of that, what that looks like with these young people, and I believe that church in the next generation is going to be different, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what they're going to bring and the perspective they're going to have and how they're going to be faithful to the gospel, and they're going to connect, with their methodology to reach further generations. So I'm super excited about that.
Hey, let's talk about your connection to the BBFI a little bit. So, when did you first get connected to the BBFI? I know right now you're one of our newer state reps,
Yeah.
state rep for Illinois. But when did you get connected to the BBFI? Was it just through Calvary growing up, or what would that look like?
Yeah. So when we came, I really didn't have a connection with the fellowship prior to coming back to Calvary. I knew about the fellowship because obviously I served as a deacon here for a couple of years before being called into ministry to Florida. So I knew about the fellowship, and I knew about missionaries and heavy in missions and all of that. I knew that, and I love that. At Bethany, we supported some BBFI missionaries there as well, so I knew about that side of it. But in coming back here, that was one of the things that my wife and I talked about. I said, I know that we're part of the fellowship, but I said, I want to experience what this is for us, like what this really means for us coming in. And so I wanted to not take somebody's word for it of like, this is what it was, this is the way it used to be, this is what happened. I wanted to come in with the heart open and eyes open to see what would God have as far as my involvement in the fellowship. So in coming in, I've attended every meeting except one. Again, I believe that if you want to take part in something, you don't need a little sample size. The small sample size, you need as large sample size as possible. But coming in, making some connections. I'm grateful to do so. Making even more. I love the direction of the fellowship. And if just in case my mind wanders, because it's prone to wonder, if you'd remind me of this, Randy, what is one thing that I think that the fellowship could improve upon in the future? Okay, I don't want to answer that right now, but
Okay,
that's the question.
okay,
You're the host. You got to kick it back to me in a minute.
okay, okay.
Um, but what I've loved about the connection with the fellowship is just the connections, the fellowship, the getting to know other men who really do care. That it's not lip service, and I love how the mission of the fellowship right now is forward thinking.
Mm,
It's not what happened 30 years ago and let's go relive, something that happened in the 1970s. It's like let's dream about what God wants to do in this generation and the next and the next. And I'm super excited about the direction of the fellowship. That was one of the things actually in early conversation that you and I have had, and John and I have also had this conversation privately of this, and Phil as well, but of the direction in the future. Because if it would have been more reliving of the past, I don't have a history with the past.
right.
But what I can do is I can help share the vision for the future.
Mm.
So that was something I was really stoked about. Of just saying, okay, this is what are we going to do? How are we going to help strengthen churches? How are we going to help build up pastors? How are we going to send missionaries? How are we going to equip them? I mean, we've given our life to this, so obviously it matters to us, right?
So, what surprised you? I'll come back to your question in a minute, but what surprised you coming in with kind of fresh eyes
Yeah.
to the fellowship? What maybe something that surprised you when you started coming to the meetings or getting to know some of our leadership?
Okay. Two things. I'll give you the thing that surprised me. It was a very pleasant surprise, and then I'll give you the second thing, which was the thing that I told you to remind me of. All right.
Okay.
So the first thing was that it was very laid back. I really enjoyed that. I'm a laid back person. Again, I didn't grow up with some form of high church background.
Mm,
Nothing wrong with those perspectives, but I just didn't have that. So for me coming in, and it was laid back in the approach and the appeal and the dress, those kinds of things. It just seemed welcoming. It seemed like me.
Mm.
Again, I could put on a suit. That's not a problem. And I would do that if I needed to, but I just came in and I was like, ooh, there's a freshness here. This is just different. And that appealed to me.
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't a church kid, and I have just enough in me to ask questions. I'm like, hey, why are things the way that they are? So this is something that, again, was a fresh. That was good. And it was fresh and surprised me. I'm like, okay, this is great. Second thing that surprised me was for somebody who's coming into the fellowship new, in the larger meetings, there was no communication to the new person in the room.
Mm.
And for several meetings, I was always the new person in the room. Of course, I knew I'd known you, but you're busy, and I had known Lonnie Lehrman, but Lonnie knows everyone. Lonnie's an amazing guy, and I would come up and talk to Lonnie a little bit, and then we bounce. I talked to Chris Kitts. Chris and Lonnie and I, we go back 25 years,
Right.
so not a
They were at your
problem.
church then.
They were, and they're amazing guys. But once they left, because they've got friends they had friends elsewhere. Then my wife and I were kind of standing there like, okay, there needs to be some sort of group, some sort of gathering, some sort of identification of, hey, who is new to the fellowship over the last 3 years? Raise your hand. Hey, we've got a fellowship, or this time of meeting. You get to meet a couple of people who maybe the higher level people at the fellowship, maybe more not higher level, maybe more gifted people in the fellowship, to go connect with these people who are new pastors, new ministry leaders in the fellowship, just so they don't feel like I felt.
Mm.
Because we, if my wife wasn't there, it would have been very uncomfortable. I may not have come back after probably the second visit
Mm.
if I would have said, how you doing, within the first 3 minutes of everybody that I knew, and then sat in a seat and waiting for everything to start.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's great insight. I appreciate you sharing that. That's great insight, and I wrote that down. So
Yeah.
I want to see what we can do to correct that, because that would definitely be an improvement. Because there are, and a lot of people don't maybe understand this, but there are a lot of new guys that are coming and being a part of what the fellowship is.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of state fellowship meetings, and there's a lot of, even on the state level, there's a lot of guys that don't have the BBFI, BBC, Mission U background.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's great insight. I appreciate you sharing that. So,
Yeah.
uh, hey, let me ask you this: a kind of another leadership lesson. So we talked about lessons learned while you're in the military, but if you could go back now 20 years ago,
Hmm.
to when you were kind of getting started in ministry, or when you were first starting, or that guy that is just getting started in ministry, what's one piece of advice that you'd go back and share with yourself?
Hmm. Oh, I would say this, somebody, for myself or somebody else who's in ministry, many times we put others way before we do so for ourselves. And so a simple analogy would be, if you've ever flown in an airplane and they're giving the instructions, if there's a loss of cabin pressure, and then they go through and they talk about, if you're a parent or if you're there, you're guarding over somebody else, and they say the first thing you should do is you should put the mask on yourself before you put the mask on the next
Mm.
person, right? So the idea being, you can't really help somebody else unless you've adequately sought to your own help,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
that's what that represents. So in ministry, I think one of the things that, we talk about loving God with our heart, soul, mind, body, soul, strength. Like, we get that, and then we just kind of jump to love your neighbor. So we in ministry, and maybe it's just me. Maybe this is just me, like a, diary of a mad pastor. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, whatever this is. But for me, when I look at that, my tendency was to, oh, now I'm here to serve people. And it took me too many years to realize that I'm no value to people if I don't tend to my own spiritual walk
Mm.
first.
Yeah.
And so, sure, it's love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, body, strength, right?
Right.
And the second is love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm.
So we forget the as yourself part. And so that's a lesson I wish I would have known 20 years ago, to make sure that I put my spiritual walk to where I put boundaries on my time for my spiritual walk, that my effectiveness in my productivity is not as important as my connectivity to God.
That's golden. Say that one more time. That was good.
I don't know that I can. I've never
People
really
can
put that
rewind it, I
together.
guess.
There you go.
Go back
Um,
10 seconds and listen to
yeah,
it again.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very good. Hey, I want to wrap up with a few quick hitters. Before I do, I've been wanting to ask, what's the story behind the axe behind you?
So the axe behind me was a wonderful gift from. So we have our men's ministry here at the church is called Force, and the early leaders in Force, our first men's group, which now we've multiplied, we're probably going to multiply again soon. But the men's ministry here, a group of men's leaders actually made that. Everyone in the original group got an axe. So
Mm,
got the axe, and then one of our brothers in the group had custom made and to etch out a verse onto the axe.
mm. So now everybody that's listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, we're going to have to go on YouTube and watch the video to
Exactly.
see
Find out
what we're
the
talking
axe.
about.
Yes, yes.
All right, here I got a couple quick hitters for you. Okay, so
Bring it.
first thing that pops your mind when I say these, a couple options, and I always start with this one. Would you rather read a book or watch a movie?
Read a book.
Yeah. What's your all-time favorite book besides the Bible?
All-time favorite book, Wild at Heart, John Eldridge.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I've read it so many times, brought s- dozens of men through it.
Yeah. Did he also write Why Men Hate Going to Church?
No, that's David Moreau,
Okay,
but that
right.
also is a very impactful book.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
yeah. Are you an early to arrive or fashionably late?
early to arrive.
Yeah.
Ten,
Was that military training or was that before?
uh, Military.
Yeah.
Yeah, discipline. I was very undisciplined as a teenager.
Mm.
So
Are you plan everything in detail or go with the flow?
100%. I'm a planner. My
Yeah.
wife is the go with the flow, and I think we both love those attributes of one another, and then we also drive each other crazy about those attributes. So yeah, I'm a plan everything.
Are you an indoor activities or an outdoor activities?
Outdoor, give me a trail, and I'm ready to go hike.
So that was another question I was going to ask. Are you favorite vacation to the beach or to the mountains?
Mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where there's not mountains in Illinois. Where do you go?
Thanks for that reminder. There's not. No. So so I'll hit up state parks. That's what I'll do around here.
Yeah.
Over in Grafton, Illinois, there's a state park over there that's beautiful. It's called Pierre Marquette.
Mm,
Nice walking trails, good view of the river. It's really nice.
yeah.
It's not the North Georgia mountains that I like. It's what I have.
It is what you have. That's
Yeah.
why I've got the Ozarks just south of me here. So
Yes, you do.
next time you're in Springfield, you should go. There's some great trails down around Branson. All right. We talked about this a little bit before. If you only get to pick one, you want an ice cream cone or a milkshake?
I want both. I don't know why you're just giving me those two options. That isn't even right. You should say Blizzard. You should have Flurry. You should have all these
Yeah.
things on there. I mean, ice cream for days. That's the way I look at it.
It's just an extra thick milkshake, so it can
Ex-
be like ice cream, right?
Exactly right.
Would you rather watch a live concert or a live sporting event?
Ooh, great question. Probably a live concert. It depends
Yeah,
on what the concert is. Probably a live concert.
yeah. Who's the best concert you've been to?
Hmm. You probably don't want to know.
We'll skip it. We'll skip
It
it.
was not a Christian. I can tell you the best.
I'll ask
So
you off air.
there you go. Well, I will say this. So the best one that I went to, Christian, that we will talk about here, because I don't want to glorify anything in the world, but it was a great concert. The best one would have been Michael W. Smith and Third Day, and I believe Max Lucado gave the talk, and it
Mm,
was at University of Illinois 20 years ago. Amazing, just totally worshipful. Just stop you right in your
mm.
tracks. Just feeling the presence of God.
Yeah,
Incredible.
very, very, very cool. Are you a college sports guy or professional sports?
A little bit of both. It depends on the sport. I love the Miami Dolphins and slash hate the Miami Dolphins. I have since the 1980s. So there's not much to talk about there. So we do watch a lot of football at the house, and we like college football as
Yeah.
well. So go Dogs.
An Illini, or who? You say go Dogs? You saying Georgia?
Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah.
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 Not
12
Illinois?
years. No, Illinois. Do they even have teams here? I don't even know. No, I didn't really get into college football until we were in the South. And then like we raised our kids there. So our Saturdays, the ones we could,
Yeah.
we spent watching the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Go
There you
Dogs.
go. Would you rather cook at home or eat out at a restaurant?
Oh, good grief. I would much rather eat at home.
Hmm. That's a
Yeah,
compliment to your wife, huh?
it
Or
is.
or do you like to cook?
I'll cook a little bit outside. She's an amazing cook. I would rather have her, her cooking and the love that comes through it than anywhere else.
Yeah. All right. Last question. If you're studying for your sermons, you want it in a coffee shop around everybody or in a quiet office?
Hmm. Probably a quiet office.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
operate in both, but a quiet office and sometimes I do shake it up a little bit and just go to Starbucks and just sit there and do some reading or planning, studying, whatever, but mostly a quiet office.
That sounds great. Chad, thanks for taking the time to join us. You got any last words of wisdom you want to share before we go?
I have no words of wisdom, but I can tell you that it has been a treat to be on here and just to be a part of the fellowship and to be considered, somebody who would be able to be interviewed on here is a real treat. So, Randy, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. And everybody listening, thanks for joining us on this episode and looking forward to sharing more conversations with you down the road.